today is Maseches Shabbos, Sunday, and we are catching up today for Shabbos and Maseches Shabbos for those that didn't make it to the Shabbos Shir, which means that we are covering both Daf Zayin Amud Aleph and Daf Zayin Amud Beis of Maseches Shekalim for Yud and Yud Aleph Nisan. Looking forward, Be'ez Hashem Baruch, as we are getting closer and closer to Pesach. We're going to have a 3-day Yantav, so we'll have to figure out, probably record 2 Shurim before and 2 Shurim after to make sure that everybody is up to date. We're going to send the link to the Chabura, just that everybody is on the same page. And Be'ezras Hashem, getting to work here. We left off on Daf, on Erev Shabbos, on the bottom of Vav Amud Beis, just before the end of the Amud, one line from the bottom, where the Gemara is quoting from the Mishnah. The Mishnah was talking about the Moisar of Karbanos, and the final case that the Mishnah told us was Moisar Nazir Nazir Moisar Nazir Nadava, the leftover of Nazirim. If you have the Beis HaMikdash fund that would make sure that Nazirim had their Karbanos, so that fund could be used to roll over to the next Nazir. But if you have one Nazir that says, this is what I'm going to use for my Karbanos, so the leftover of that is L'Nadava, does not go to anybody else. It has to be given as a Nadava, which means that it's going to a Korban Ola. Says the Gemara, bottom of the page on Davav Amud Beis, last line, Moshe Nazir Nadava, with regards to this case of the leftovers of the Korban of the Nazir ending up as a Nadava, Rav Chisda tells us, turning on to Zayin Amud Aleph, Rav Chisda Amar, V'hu she kirva chatas b'sayf. That is only true that the Moshe Nazir goes to a Nadava if the final Korban that he purchased or offered, l'ch'ora, was a chatas. What does that mean? That a Nazir has to bring 3 korbanos. He has to bring a shlamim, he has to bring an ola, and he has to bring a chatas. So which one did he buy and which one was offered? The last one, such that there is now leftover money, right? Meaning if he offered a chatas and then offered a shlamim and then offered an ola, those were the so then the final one was an ola. But what if it was a shlamim? So says Rav Chisda, when the Mishnah tells us that the Moshe Nazir is for Nadava, that is only assuming that the last korban that he brought was a chatas. Aval yikir b'shlamim b'sayf. But if the shlamim was the last korban offered, Moshe and shlamim, then the leftovers are going to be a shlamim, and the shlamim, as opposed to a Nadava for an ola, a shlamim the bailim would be able to get benefit from. So that's a good idea. Amr Rabbi says, Rabbi Zera, even if the shlamim was the final korban that was offered, halacha achasi benazir shetia moisha nedava. The halacha doesn't change, and the leftovers are going to be used for a nedava for a korban ola mim manushal, no matter what was offered last. Says the Gemara, you have a brisa that supports one opinion, Rav Chisda, and a brisa that supports Rabbi Zera's opinion. You have a brisa that supports Rabbi Zera. The brisa tells us, afilu, or maybe not afilu, it's in parentheses, Elohim ma'ostum. This is stam money, meaning money that has no designation, undesignated funds. Kol shedmei chatas, mitos me'uvaros bohem, any monies that the word mitos, probably the grocers take that word out, but any dmei chatas ma'uravois bahem, anytime that you have monies that chatas funds are mixed into, even if you separate out, you said this part of it, these 5 shekalim, whatever it is going to be for the chatas, from within it, they are still considered to be unspecified monies. And since it was unspecified monies that has chatas inside of it, so then there's no change. Even if you specify the chatas, no change. Everything's going to go for an adava. And then you have Masnis and Masailer of Chiseva, Brisa that's supposed to Chista, person that says, see, these monies are for my chatas, and the remainder of the monies is for the other korbanos, for my nazirs, the shalom and the ola, umeis, and then the guy dies. Ma'alim b'kulal. There is an isur of me'ilah, of stealing from Beis HaMikdash funds, from all of the monies. Ve'ein ma'alem be'miktasan, but there is no me'ila but by using only some of them. Meaning, if you used the whole money, meaning all of the money, for something that is not a korban or not based on English related, that would be me'ila. But if you took a little bit of it and then you use that, that's not me'ila. V'loy amar im meisif l'nadava, and we do not say that if he died, it should go as a nadava. Meaning, we understand that there is some money in this which is not hektish. There is some money. That's what this Bryce is indicating, and that's what Ruchis's Raya is. Because we don't say v'loy amar im meis yiblu nadava, if the guy dies, that all of it has to end up as a nadava. It means that there is money in that does not necessarily have to be hektish. And therefore it would be able to be used. Says Ruchis, amar moisa lachma shel nazir yurkov. An additional halacha, Moshe lachma shel nazir yurkov. If you have leftovers of the bread of the nazir, so those breads, if there's leftovers from that yurkov, it has to be left to rot. Amar Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi says, "V'yeus lahakri v'ay b'fnei atzmai." Why do we say that you should leave it to rot? V'yeus, is that really correct? You could put it on the mizbeach by itself. I mean, if there's leftover bread, he doesn't need to use it for his korban, but offer it anyway. So says the why not? Because the halacha is, this is Rabbi Yossi's point here, because you never have bread that is offered by itself without a korban. You cannot bring it for another nazir. That would be impossible. Because you can never have a nazirus that is brought without bread, without lechem. Meaning, the moment that he takes upon himself being a nazir, he is also being mechayim himself to pay for his korbanos, for this bread as well. And therefore, you have to say that the leftover bread of the nazir has to be left to rot because he cannot use it for himself, he cannot put it in the mizbeach, and he cannot use it for anybody else. They wanted to say in the Beis Medrash that the same din that applies to the Mosar Lachman, the leftover bread, also applies to the leftover nisachim, the leftover wine libations that would come along with the Nazir's Ola and Shlamim. So he has wine that he brings in the Mizbech as well. So Amar Rabbi Yossi ba Rabbi Bun, says Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Bun, Mosar nisachav kach gadashim. Doesn't really work so well because the leftover one is kachim. They should be left over for a nadava, just like a chatos. Yeah, okay, big deal. That's a shlamim that's involved here, but the wine themselves is not shared with the owners, and therefore it has the din of a chatos. Says the Gemara al dated Rabbi Yossi bar Bun in accordance with this opinion of Rabbi Yossi bar Bun, who said, according to Rabbi Chisda, that the leftover of the nesachim should be used for a nadava because it is kachim. Shmuel aliv the Rabbi Chisda, but Moshe nesachim Rabbi Chia or should be Rabbi Chisda, Rabbi Elazar. Shlosh Amar, all three of them said davar echad, the same thing. They all pass on the same thing, which is Rabbi. It should be Rav Chisda. That's the correction. Yeah, Rav Chisda ahan de Amr. The Rav Chisda is the one that we said. Meaning, we already said the din of Rav Chisda that the Moshe Nesachim should be used as a nedava, cannot be used for a shlamim. Shmuel, what about the din of Shmuel? The Amar Rabbi Yossi. That is what Rabbi Yossi said in the name of Shmuel on Daf Vav Beis, what we just saw. Ad the Anan Taman, he says, and while I was still there in Bavel, I heard Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. I heard Rabbi Yehuda asking Shmuel, Hifrish Shiklei Vames. What happens if the guy separated out his shekel and he died? So Amarle Yiblu Nadava, that also should fall to a Nadava. Meaning that's the second case we're saying, yeah. And the Rabbi Lazar, what's the Rabbi Lazar? Omer Moser Asir Saifa Shalai. That's the din of the Asir Saifa. What's going to be with the leftovers of the Asir Saifa? So Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Yolichem leYama hamelach. You should throw it into the Dead Sea, meaning you cannot use it for anything. Rabbi Elazar Amar and Rabbi Elazar says Yiblu Nadava. it should be left as an adava. So in all three of these cases, we say Yibn adava, and that is the common denominator in these three cases. These are three things that have a din of chatas, and therefore kodesh kodashim, and they have to be used as an adava. Okay, says the Gemara quoting the next Mishnah. Halacha heimas nisin. Moisa shuin l'shuin. The leftovers of monies that are used to redeem captives are used to redeem more captives. Moisa shavu la'oisa shavu. What about you raising money for one particular person to be redeemed? And this has been an old Jewish problem. Jews being taken captive. We should never have such dinim ever again. But the leftovers of the money for this particular, you raised a lot of money at a GoFundMe to get this guy out of captivity. But now there's leftover money. What do you do with that money? So you give it to him, meaning because that's what it's for. The leftover money of an ani goes to an ani, meaning goes to another ani. And the leftovers, meaning you're raising money for this particular ani for Maseches, and then he has everything that he needs. No, still for Pesach. Still, you have to give it to him. Moisar hamesim leftover funds for the Chevra Kedisha goes to other people that are going to die. And Moisar hames liyorshav, leftovers for a particular mace. You made a GoFundMe for one guy, so if there's extra money, that goes to his inheritors. Rav Meir says Moisar hamesi hey munach no. The leftovers for this mace. So he's dead already, and you've already done everything that you need for him. You can't give it to his children because it wasn't raised for them. So you have to wait until Eliyahu comes, and he'll pass on what to do with these with these monies. Rav Nassan says the leftovers of of the proceeds raised for a person that died. So use it. You don't need it for his burial costs, for his shrouds, for his coffin. What you can use it for is to put a monument, to put a gravestone on top of his kever. That is also okay. Says the Gemara as follows: the Gemara, what happens if you raise money for a certain person with the assumption that he didn't have anything, and then it turns out that the guy actually has stuff? Meaning he had money, he had assets. Rabbi Yomi So Rabbi Yomi wanted to say, no, the leftovers should be given over to his descendants. Amarle Rabbi Idi L'Chudra says Rabbi Idi the Chudra of Chudra. Check yourself. What are you saying? Deloi Kavnon Ela Lei. Meaning they raised the money not for his inheritors, for his descendants. They raised the money for him. Amarle, so he said, Ana Loi Omris. I didn't say that this is the din. At minalach, how do you know that? Meaning, I'm not sure that this is the halacha. How do you know that I'm wrong? So he says, Tani B'Shem Reb Nassan. The Mishnah then quotes in the name of Reb Nassan, Moser Hameis Yivne Loi Nefesh Al Kibra, that the leftovers of that are raised for a person that died should be used as to make a nefesh, to make a monument, meaning a gravestone, by his grave, and put it was some kind of wine perfume thing that made the gravesite smell nice. That's a ziluf al gavam, meaning things to be mechabit him after he dies. Tani, the Brisa says as follows: Ein podim shavu b'shavu. We do not redeem one captive with another captive, meaning monies that are raised for one captive, you don't use for another one. Ve'in gavin talis b'talis, and we don't use money raised to buy a talis for this poor person, meaning clothing for this poor person, to buy for that poor person. And gavin talis b'talis. Ve'in mamchin biyad parnasim lekach. Nevertheless, when the parnasim, the people that are taking care of the community, the public funds, when they do these things, we don't yell at them about this. And this happens from time to time. Tzedakahs will come around and they will collect. They've got for this one kid. But the kid that is used on the pamphlet, that speaks the best and tells the story the best. So that's the one that they use. We don't tell the Parnasim that they're not allowed to do. We don't protest it. Tani, Rabbi Shimon, even though it's inappropriate. Tani, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, we don't make monuments, we don't make statues, mausoleums for tzaddikim. Dvarim hein hein zichronam. Their words are their commemoration. And now the Gemara is going to tell us a story about the importance of things being quoted correctly in the name of the person that said it, with a strange story between Rebbe and Talmud. With a couple of different breaks and jumps in the story. So, buckle up. Says the Gemara as follows: Rabbi Yochanan have a masmich ve'ozel al Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Rabbi Yochanan was leaning on Rabbi Chia bar Abba, and they were going for a walk. V'haya Rabbi Elazar Chamilei, and Rabbi Eliezer saw him, which is Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas. That's the person that we're talking about. And he hid from him, meaning he hid away from Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan shouldn't see him. Va'amar, and he said, "Halin tarti milayu hadin bavla avidbe." This Babylonian has done two bad things. He's insulted me doubly. Chadar, the first, he didn't say shalom aleichem to me. V'chadar de mitamar, and the other one that he's hiding from me. So there's two problems. So Amarli, Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi says, Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, Kach nagin gavhaim. That is the minhag in Bavel. Meaning, in Bavel, people are careful about these things. He is trying to hide from you, and he's not saying Shalom Aleichem. Why? Because a small person doesn't say Shalom Aleichem first to a great person. Meaning, he recognizes that you are far greater than him, and he doesn't want to say Shalom Aleichem to you because he is in awe and reverence. Di'inun nagan mekaimin, because they hold themselves, meaning they hold of the pasuk. Ra'uni norim v'nechba'u v'yishishim kamu amdu amadu. The pasuk in Eov, that young people would see me and they would hide themselves, and old people would rise and stand in front of me. So Amarlu, so Rabbi Yochanan says back to them, Mahu lemevad kami de aduri. So Amarlu, so he said. So this is what Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi said to Rabbi Yochanan. Mahu lemevad kami laaduri tzalme, and in order to pacify him, he seemingly is changing the topic. So he asked him a question. He says, Mahu lemevad kami adure tzalmi. What do you do if you are walking in front of an idol? If you're walking in front of Avodah Zarah, you need to, meaning it's on your road. So, is it mutter to walk past? Amarle, so Rabbi Yochanan said back to Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, Ma'id paligle yakar. In what way are you showing any honor to the statue by just walking past it? Avur kamai v'sami'inu. Walk past and sami'inu, and literally means blind his eyes, meaning don't even look at it. Just walk past it without even looking at it. Amarle, so Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi says back to him, to Rabbi Yochanan, Yeus Rabbi Elazar, Ovid, Deloi Avar Kamach. Then according to your psak, what Rabbi Elazar did is correct. Because if he would have walked past you without saying Shalom Aleichem, as is his minhag in Bavel, he would never have brought himself to speak to you first. So he would have walked straight past you. That would have been the same lack of covered as a person walking in front of an idol, which you say is mutter because you're not giving it any covered. And then you would have been even further insulted. So he didn't say Shalom Aleichem, and then he hid from you so that he wouldn't have to walk past you and not say Shalom Aleichem. V'oid. And then Rabbi Yochanan says, okay, but I'm still bothered by him. V'oid, Ovid ha-bavla, I'm in general upset with him, with this Babylonian, because he doesn't quote me when he's teaching. Meaning, he's my Talmud, I taught him a lot, and he doesn't quote me. He doesn't quote me when he teaches halacha. Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi came in front of Rabbi Yochanan. They said to him, Rabbi, our master, Don't be angry with him. Don't be angry with Rabbi Yaakov, with Rabbi Lazar ben Das. Says Kach haya ma'asav beis hakneses shel tarsim. Just to understand how severe anger is, once it happened in the Beis Medrash of the Tarsim, that's the smiths, the coppersmith Beis Medrash in Tiberia. With regards to a peg that has a knob on the top. What's the machlokes? So with regards to a peg that has a knob on the top, that's used as a doorstop. But since it's rounded at the top, you put the peg into the door frame in order that the door doesn't close, right? Or that it holds open. But because it has a rounded edge, a rounded side, it could also be taken out and used to grind spices. So it's a multi-purpose instrument. It could be a door stop, a bolt, or it could be a pepper grinder. That's imagine the information for such a thing. But kacha, what was the machlokes? The machlokes was if you put it into the door, is that boine on Shabbos? Because it is, at the end of the day, it is adding a piece to your building, right? It's not going to come out necessarily, but people might want to take it out a minute later or a day later or whatever the case is, because it's not permanently there. You're taking it out, you're going to be able to use it as a pepper grinder at some point. So that was the question. Shenechleku, turning over the page to Daf Zayin Amud Beis, Shenechleku Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Yossi, that Rabbi Eliezer, which is Rabbi Eliezer the Tana, not Rabbi Lazar ben Padas, who is the Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan, Shenechleku Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi, Ad Shekaru Sefer Torah B'Chamason, until they tore a Sefer Torah in their anger. Devastating. You should know how severe this was. So that Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi are saying to Rabbi Yochanan, don't get so angry, because it once happened that in the midst of righteous anger over halacha, two Talmidei Chachamim ended up tearing a Sefer Torah. Says the Gemara, hold on a second. They tore up a Sefer Torah? No. Sefer Torah was torn. The Aruch explains what was going on here is that each of them was standing in front of the Sefer Torah, and one was saying, take a look, I want to show you what this pasuk, and the other one said, take a look, I want to show you the pasuk, and the Sefer Torah tore as a result of them both tried to discuss with each other. There was an old Talmud Chacham that was there. Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, his name was Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma. Amar, he said to me, Hani imloi hava beis knesses ze beis avodah zara. I would be astounded if this shul did not one day turn into a beis avodah zara. Why? Well, because like the Rambam pointed out in Chosdeus and says Kodesh as well, that anybody that gets angry, it's as if they were over the Zara. It causes the Shechina to disappear. The Gemara says, and therefore, says Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, you tore up a Sefer Torah accidentally. Sefer Torah got torn because of the anger here. So the Shechina has left here. This is going to turn into a Beis Avodah Zara. V'chasav Amar Hakadem Mechavri. Rabbi Yochanan got very upset with them now. He says V'chasav Amar. He went back and he said Hakadem Mechavri. What, you're going to compare my kepeda, my annoyance with my Talmud, Rabbi Eliezer ben Padas, to the machlokes between two friends. Two friends have to learn how to get along. But he's my Talmud. I have the right to be angry with him. That is part and parcel of my being his Rebbe. I'm supposed to be. So Nichnas Stefano of Rabbi Yaakov Edi came back. And he says, Amalei, he says, because if the pasuk says, Kasher Tziva Hashem es Moshe Avdoi, Kain Tziva Moshe es Yoshua. The same way that Moshe, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded Moshe Rabbeinu. So Yoshua did exactly that. But you think that every single time, says Rabbi Yaakov to Rabbi Yochanan, every time that Yoshua taught the halacha, he said, this I heard from Moshe Rabbeinu. So he says, Eli Yoshua Yoshev Darish. No, Yoshua sat and he taught all the halachas. And everybody knew that this was Moshe Rabbeinu's Torah, that Yoshua wasn't making it up. He was the primary Talmud of Moshe Rabbeinu. Everything he said was Moshe Rabbeinu. It would be a chiddush of something that he said wasn't from Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, Af ata, so too with you. Eliezer Yoshev Darish. Your Talmud, Rabbi Eliezer ben Padas, he sits and he teaches. V'kol yodim she'Torah shelcha. And everybody knows that he is your Talmud, you're his Rebbe. He doesn't have to keep saying in your name, in your name, in your name, in your name. Somebody said to me once, he said to me, I don't hear you quoting from Rosh Hashanah very often. So I said, because I was in a shir in his Shekalim for 6 years. Everything it's this Gemara. Everything that I say in halacha comes from Rosh Hashanah or from Rav Lachman. Right? It comes from Arabim. That doesn't come from anywhere else. If it comes from somewhere else, that's when I'll say it comes from somewhere else. And that's so. We should still quote the name of Arabim. Nevertheless, says the Gemara, Amar lahem. So Rabbi Yochanan, after Rabbi Yaakov Idi had said this to him, Amar lahem. So he now says back to Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi. He says, "Mipnei ma ein atin yoidin l'ratzos keben idi chaverinu." How come he's much better at this than you? Meaning, twice he already managed to explain it to me. Calm me down. How come you don't know how to do that? You should learn. You should learn from our friend, our chaver, Rav Yaakov Idi. Okay, says the Rabbi Yochanan, my kule hi the boy the yom shmait b'shmei. So at the end of the day, okay, so this was answered that he is really saying it in your name. Everything that he says is in your name. Why does he care so much that it should be said in his name? Why is that such a big deal? Says the Gemara, the Af David Bikesh ala Rachamim, because David HaMelech asked Rachamim from HaKadosh Baruch Hu about this thing. Shenam, the pasuk says, "Agura ba'alecha oilo mim echa seba seisur kenafecha sela." David HaMelech says in Tehillim, in Samach Aleph, he says, "I want to live in your house forever, and I'm going to be able. Can I possibly find a safe haven, a hiding place beneath your wings?" David really thinks he could live forever in the wings of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says David in front of Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, Master of the universe, may it be a will of Hashem that my words should be said in shuls and in Bati Medrash. I want to be quoted in the shuls and in the Bati Medrash. Shimon Nazir b'Shem Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, it says Shimon Nazir in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak. Kol Talmid Chacham she'imru davar halacha b'piv ba'olam hazeh. Any time that you quote the Talmid Chacham in this world, Svasav Reich Hashosh Ima B'kever, his lips are moving along with you in the grave, meaning he's still speaking. Shenemar, the pasuk says in Shir Hashirim, v'chikeich ki yein hatoiv. The pasuk says that your mouth, your palate, is like sweet wine, like the best wine. It moves the lips of the people that are asleep. Just like a bunch of grapes that's heated up. If you have warm grapes and you put your finger on it, miyad doivev, the liquid inside of it starts bubbling, starts moving. When you quote halacha in the names of a tzaddik, the lips are moving in the grave as well. So the Gemara says, okay, that's strange. Mahanala. So what does that help the guy? He's in the next world. His body is here. So Ben Nazira says, "Kahadein deshasi konditon." It is like somebody that drinks konditon. Konditon is like a cocktail, a spiced wine. Rabbi Yitzchak says, "Kahadein deshasi chamar atik." It's like drinking old wine. Afagav deshasile, even though you have already drunk it long time ago. Tama b'pumi, the flavor is still in your mouth, meaning that the Talmidei Chacham and Tzaddikim that are quoted in this world, even though they're not here, they feel in the Olam Elyonim as if their bodies are still doing mitzvahs because their words are being spoken in the grave, and they get hana in the next world from it. Says the Gemara, Rav says the Gemara, Rav Gidl Amar Rav Gidl says, somebody that quotes a halacha in the name of the person that said. You should imagine that the person that said it is right in front of him. You should imagine that person in front of him. You know the pasuk says, with an image of your teacher, a person should walk. Ksiv, the pasuk says, Rav Adam Yikra Ish Chazdai. Pasuk, the pasuk in Mishnah says, Rav Adam Yikra Ish Chazdai. The teaching of a great person, a regular person, right? Rav Adam is a big person. Yikra Ish Chasda, a person of chesed, a gracious person of kindness, will continue to say. We'll continue to read. Zeh shar kol adam. That's all other people. V'ish emonim mi yimatzei. Who's going to find a trustworthy person? Zeh Rabbi Zera. This is talking about Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera lived up to this value. Rabbi Zera says, we should not concern ourselves with any issues that come up as a result of the things that Rav Sheshes teaches us. Dehu gavra me patcha, because he is a man with open eyes. What does it mean he is a man with open eyes? He was blind, so he never saw his own teacher, and therefore he wouldn't be able to have known exactly what the din was. So he says, whenever we hear anything from Rosh Hashanah, if there was something that sounds a little bit off, don't challenge him on it. Don't challenge him on it, because the truth is, there's no ways he could have been 100% accurate, because he never saw his Rebbeim. He only heard it. And since he only heard it, there was clearly things that were missing in it. And says Rabbi Zera, an ish emunim, if you want to hold somebody to the highest standard that everything that they say is 100% accurate, it can only be somebody that saw their Rebbeim. Amar le Rabbi Zera le Rav Asi, so Rabbi Zera to Rav Asi, Chachim Rebbe lebar Pasya. Are you, Rebbe, familiar with a guy by the name of Bar Pasya? Da'as Amar Shematim Mishmei, that you say things in his name, meaning you quote things in the name of Bar Pasya. How can you quote them from him? Did you see him? Amar le, so he says, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Mishmei, Rabbi Yochanan said it to me in his name. And I know that Rabbi Yochanan is accurate, and therefore I can quote Rabbi Yochanan in the name of Bar Pasya. Amar le Rabbi Zera said to Rav Asi, Chachim Rabbi le Rav. Did Rabbi know? Did you know Rav? Did you hear Torah from Rav himself? That you teach things in his name. Amar le, so Rav Asi says no. Rav Ada bar Ava Amar Mishmei, I heard it in the name of Rav Ada bar Ava, and he is accurate. So I can hear. Then Rav often told us that this is how Rav Soloveitchik would teach halacha. He would often say, I heard from Fazer in the name of Reb Chaim. I heard it from my father. I heard it from my father, who heard it in the name of Reb Chaim. I didn't necessarily hear it in the name of Reb Chaim, although he did learn Reb Chaim for a bit when he was very young. But he said, I heard it from my father in the name of Reb Chaim. I didn't hear it directly, but I heard it from somebody that heard it accurately. And now the Gemara continues. Once we discuss one of the wishes of David HaMelech, we're going to hear another one of the wishes of David HaMelech. David HaMelech not only wanted that his halacha should be taught in his name in the Beis Medrash, and that his Tehillim should be said in the Beis Knesset, but another tefillah, another wish of David, says the Gemara, Ein dar she'ein boi leitzonim. There is no generation that doesn't have its scoffers, people that make a mockery of things. Kedar shel David, just like the generation of David. Ma how you prutzi hadar. What are the prutzim, the loose people of that generation do? People that are making light of things. They went to the windows of David. And they said to him, David, oh King David, when are you going to build the Beis Hamikdash? When's it going to be built? Because they knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that he's not going to build it. Beis Hashem Nelech, you said, Samachti ba'omrim Beis Hashem Nelech. You said, yeah, so happy when they'll tell you that you can go to the house of Hashem. When are we going? When are we going to the house of Hashem? David would say, even though they are trying to annoy me, to make me angry. The truth is, I'm so happy with what they say. The pasuk says, Samachti ba'omrim Beis Hashem Nelech. Because when they said to me, let's go to the house of Hashem, I got happy that they also wanted it, even though they were doing it only to bug me, only to annoy me. That he says, I would be happy. I'd be happy to leave this world sooner, so that the house of Hashem could be built. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me that I'm not going to build the Beis Hamikdash. My son is. It'll be built after me. So he says, I would have been happy to leave this world early, so the Beis Hamikdash for Hashem would be built. So v'haya ki yimle'u, the pasuk says, it'll be when your days are filled. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that I'm going to fill up my whole life. I'm not going to die early. Then I'll lie with my ancestors. So Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu David, Hashem says, David, Yomim Shlomim Ani Moinlach, I'm counting for you full days. V'lo Yomim Chaserim, and no shortened days. I'm not going to cut off your life. Klum Shlomo bincha yivne beis hamikdash. Why? Because what's the reason? Is there any reason that I will allow Shlomo Melech to build the Beis Hamikdash and Hakir Korban Sibur to bring the Korban Sibur, to bring the public sacrifices? And he says HaKadosh Baruch Hu David Melech Chaviv Alai Tzedakah Mishpat She'ata Oiseh Yosem Min HaKorban. And what I care about much more than Korbanos is the Tzedakah and the Mishpat that you do. Meaning it's all going to be in your schus that Shlomo Melech can build the Beis Hamikdash. I want you around for as long as you're supposed to be, says Hashem. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Oiseh Tzedakah Mishpat Nivchar LaHashem Mizavach, that doing tzedakah and mishpat is even greater to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than doing bring korbanos. And Hadron Alach Metzarfin Shekalim. We have just finished the second parak called Metzarfin Shekalim, putting together the Shekalim, and our next Mishnah, talking the very beginning of the next parak, is, and we'll just see the Mishnah. There are 3 times a year that you would take money out of the Lishka. We've learned this before. They are 15 days before each of the Shalosh Regalim. Veheim Gronis Shal Maisa Behema, and these times are also good times for separating Maisa Behema. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. This is the din of Rabbi Akiva. We will continue with the rest of the Mishnah and the rest of the opinions tomorrow. Wishing everybody a beautiful evening and a Shavuot Tov Mevarach as we are heading into Be'ez Hashem, the Chag of Geula. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. We will continue learning from this Mishnah. Have a wonderful night.